Welcome to the Sonic Days podcast, home of all things audio. This season was recorded live at Sonic Days 2024. In this episode, Volvo Cars sound designer Fredrik Hagman takes us into the world of automotive sound design. As cars evolve from combustion to electric, manual to autonomous, sound plays a crucial role in safety, usability, and user experience. Learn how sound shapes the way we interact with vehicles today and what the future holds.
I hope with this session that you will find that there are maybe more to the sound design within automotive than just beeps and blops, although we'll talk about that as well. But hopefully you can see that there is more coming. We see in our industry more and more a marriage with kind of the game industry. So where all the big actors like Rewind or Audiokinetic and Unreal and Unity are all present also in our business, which opens up doors to work with the experience in the car. There are other keys in this, but I'll start from the beginning. So historically we design with safety in mind when it comes to cars. Basically every sound, or maybe not turn indicator, that it's just a relay sound which has lived on through the years that you use when you use the turn indicator. But our company invented seatbelts. People thought that I don't want to use a seatbelt, so they said you need a sound for it. And that's basically a lot of the needs for sound design has come from that. But we have this perfect slogan in our company: cars are driven by people. Everything we do must therefore evolve around safety. So why is this safety thing so big then? Well, it's because of this. So driving a car is a very, very complex task when it comes to your cognitive load, which means that we cannot play a lot of sounds at all times. That will just overload our users when they're driving. So we make sure to curate very much on how we play sound, in which instances, and make sure that it's always the correct sound at the correct place being played. It's also a bit special in the car industry is this chart. I will not talk too much about it, but it basically says that it's filled with background noise in every aspect. So you have road noise covering basically the whole frequency range. You have nowadays electric powertrain noise, which you might think is silent. It's not really silent. And as you lower the kind of combustion noise, and also in our recent car we lowered the road noise, then you notice that the wind noise is very present as you drive in higher speeds. Those are all aspects that we have to consider when designing sound for cars. We also, although we are a fresh and modern brand, have a lot of our customers being in the age of, let's say, 60 and upwards, which means that they are losing a lot of their hearing as they grow older, which is also something to consider. Once again, due to safety, we need to ensure that the sounds are heard. So if you combine all this, we have a little bit of range here between, let's say, maybe 400 to 1,000 hertz, where our main kind of information should lie when we design sounds while driving, that is. We usually say that we design with kind of 4 pillars. We talked about this kind of multimodal context, that everything is played in a very varying context. Besides that, we talked a bit about technical prerequisites. The industry has taken major steps. When I started, I was specifying on an Excel sheet kind of sine tones. And today we have something similar to Rewise in our cars. So it's growing, and it's growing fast. We have a lot of legal to take into consideration. I will not talk too much about it. People usually think that it's all controlled by legal. It's not completely true. You have quite a lot of freedom in designing your sound as you wish to. But of course, you have to comply with legal requirements. I will instead focus mainly on the usability aspect and the brand aspect. And maybe I should say that we're talking about UI sounds or chimes or beeps and blops. They have a lot of different names. Hopefully we can find a name which is more suitable one day. Going into the kind of usability domain, we touched on this before. sounds need to be audible at all times. We design typically with a kind of vague parameter which is called perceived urgency. So there's a lot of research being done on how you would design your sound in order to achieve the desired reaction. Typical sound is something like this, collision sound. 4 basic tones, which instantly or intuitively makes you react that I want to brake. Then we have the meaning of the sound. So there are different kind of categories that you could use. One is called auditory icon. It's basically mimicking reality. So that would be a pretty neat way, you would think. Let's say I mimic reality, I make a seatbelt reminder, which is something like this. It's pretty clear what you're supposed to do. Put on your seatbelt. We have tried this so much in different occasions. It doesn't land very well in the organization because it's considered cartoonish. We have some competitors in the States which are exploring maybe more on this, which might be changing the area in the future. But for now, we're using something called ear comms, which is basically a tone or melodic structure in order to build your sound. And then you can move into kind of the next then. You can barely see it, discrimination. How do you discriminate? And should you discriminate between sounds? So we have some 64 sounding functions in our car today. So how do we discriminate? Do we play one sound for all? Do we play 64 different sounds? Now we work a lot with kind of clustering these together, building kind of melodic structures, pitch up, pitch down, different rhythmic patterns in order to cluster them to a separate kind of function in the car. One thing that I won't touch so much is the more kind of GUI related sounds. So we're moving from buttons and basically into screens. So everything is moving into screens. We are a bit immature, is not the word, but a little bit. We have a lot to work with on the kind of screen interaction in our cars, which is probably the next stage. As we move everything into there, and you're supposed to drive at the same time, and you're supposed to know what you're doing, there is definitely a need for a well thought through kind of screen interaction. But instead I will do another kind of case study. So I'll talk about this function. Park assist. You have both your big ass SUV, and you're supposed to parallel park it somewhere in a quite hectic city. Most of the cars today have sound to help you with that. Most of the cars today have a sound like this. I won't play it because I think you know it. It's a single beep, it goes faster and faster, and it ends up kind of with a sine tone representing your dead, basically. And we thought that we maybe should challenge this a bit. We did some user studies, and especially younger people who hasn't driven a lot, they do this kind of dead analogy as they go into this closed zone. And that's where we want them to drive a little bit further. They think they crashed. It's something to work with, for sure. So we did work on that. Quite exploratory work. I think I'll take you through it. So we started with kind of what we call a body storming. So instead of maybe this beep, let's have some guiding. So start off very easy with just bringing everybody in a room, trying to find a different way of doing this instead of this kind of repelling kind of tones. We moved on into the car. This is a DJ by a backseat DJ, but you might recognize it's a bit low probably. We can't do anything with the volume here. Took the Nintendo Wii sound. Can we kind of use this to say that you're in this area, create this more pleasant kind of experience while parking? That's better for sure. We implemented it in a car. We did some crazy try. We had Gothenburg is close to the coast, so we thought we had a sea theme. What if we have a breaking wave instead and marking with a seagull in the end? Or maybe the more human approach. because we want to be perceived as human as a brand. But we ended up in this approach instead. So after a lot of research, we did also proper research, I should say. This was more the fun part of it. Then we did a proper user study where we tried out different concepts, and we ended up, instead of going from slow to fast, you turn this all around. You go from fast to slow. So you start with a kind of beep, 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 beep. And instead of ending with a tone, you end with what we call a hero sound. It's basically a positive kind of sound, marking that, oh, well done, you're done. Then if you overstep that, you might have to say something to say stop the car, otherwise you crash. So it sounds a little bit like this. You drive a bit further. Oh, stop. And there is a reverse variant to it as well. It might sound a bit strange sitting here. It's something that needs to be kind of driven and felt in the car. Because the feeling in the car is that someone is saying, come, 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 stop. Very kind of nudging, very friendly, very pleasant, kind of in opposite to come, 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 stop! Kind of. So this is now, I don't know if you saw the car on the entrance. It's a more recent car. It's the first car with this concept in it. So a little bit about brand. Can these sounds be used for branding purposes? Like, can we portray our brand through these small chimes, beeps and bops, or whatever? We certainly tried. So to give you some examples, this is our current car, the XC90. It's always portrayed like this, in a forest, by the sea, very much nature. And we do a lot of field recording. And this is not us, this is an example picture, but it shows very much what we recorded. So we spent days out on the fields recording different for whatever use. We were in the forest at some point, recording ambient sounds and kind of spatial setups and stuff. And we also recorded these kind of dead twigs from the tree trunks. So coming back to the return indicator, it's always portrayed like this. How can we do a sound which is showing the brand in the form of the slightest sound possible, a turn indicator? Short sound, it's 400 milliseconds. Well, we use the twigs. So the current turn indicator it only consists of twigs, basically. Stacked, of course. I wouldn't say that you hear a twig, but it gives people very much a warm, kind of pleasant experience. In opposite, the next picture, this is an example of our sister brand called Polestar. They want to be exact opposite. They want to be perceived as progressive and scientific and modern and stuff. So then we made a chronicle pulse. So basically, number of zeros and a one. That doesn't sound good. So he ran it through a guitar amp, and they have a sound which is like this. It's for sure dividing, this sound. Half of people like it, but the CEO loves it. That's the most important, I guess. So just to show, I have to show this. This is from Fortune magazine when the car was launched.
The beveled knobs feel expensive. Even the turn signal sound is like high-end heels on a hardwood floor.
High-end heel on a hardwood floor. Prada shoe on an oak floor. Couldn't be better. It's not a twig, but it's for sure it has some kind of quality to it. So going exterior for a while then. I don't know, maybe you heard all these electric cars sounding when they're in electric mode. We, of course, are under the same kind of legislation. So the legislation says that if you're in electric mode, you need to make a sound below 30 or 20. And why do we talk brand here? Well, it's pretty obvious. Here we have a potential to kind of play our brand out to society. And a lot of people do in order to kind of portray whatever. There are coming some extremes right now, which kind of show some kind of V8 sound, which you could argue is suitable for an electric car. But in our case, of course, we want to fulfill some kind of company core values. So safety, sustainability, as for everyone. We have some design principles about responsibility and contextual and the Scandinavian. And then they added, we want kind of maximum acceptance, minimum annoyance. That's the most important thing. Okay, so how do you do a sustainable sound for the general public then. This is not for the driver. This is for the general public. It has a safety kind of aspect to it, of course. It's legally required at a certain level. And we decided quite early that we didn't want this. We didn't want to go the traditional way of playing something cool, playing something spaceshipy, playing something what you perceive as modern, which is always that it relates back to the Jetson family, basically. So instead we kind of took this, okay, sustainability. How do we do sustainability? Well, it's about adding as little noise as possible to society. That's a sustainable approach. So then you link it back to the car. The car is silent. Well, not quite. The car still makes sound, makes tire sound. So instead of adding a completely new, boosting that, we basically made a noise profile connecting to the tire noise. So when you're in low speed, you have some tire noise, we just boost that a little bit and you achieve the legal levels. We actually exceed it by 10 dB or something, which is super nice. Okay, it's sounds like a car, everything relates to a car, sounds like a car, all good. Then it's interesting, then the car hits the market. I can play the sound first maybe. So it's something like this. A bit exaggerated, but you can also argue, why do we show this with like turning off and turning on? Well, surprise, surprise. When the car hits the market, people come back and say, there's something wrong with my car. I don't have a sound. Yes, you do. You exceed it by 10 dB. You have a lot of sound in the car. No, I don't have a sound. And why then? Expectancy. People expect the Jetson family or something similar. And when you hit the market with something that you think is super smart, kind of falls back in that, it's fully legal, it's fully audible, but people don't perceive that the sound because they can't differentiate in what is the car and what is the sound. In our case, we choose to call it mission accomplished, I would say. But still, it's kind of something we maybe didn't expect, to be honest. Anyhow, to kind of just sum it up, we made a sound which is localizable, recognizable, and intuitive. Check on those safety aspects. We did a sound which is non-intrusive, non-polluting, natural part of the city soundscape. Check on sustainability aspect. And we call it a sustainable and responsible sound design. A little bit about our facilities and tools. So we have two newly built Dolby Atmos studios, one small and one big, kind of building for the future here. We have a lot of these kind of spatial mic setups, which we do a lot of recordings with. Next thing is kind of how can we use that in a car while driving to give some kind of nice ambience touch to it. We do a lot of measurement, especially exterior-wise in our semi-anechoic rooms. And we measure, I brought this picture just to see that we do a lot of this. This is kind of the tuning phase. In a car cabin, if you tilt your head like this, it could definitely differ 10 dB due to reflections, which are not so very symmetric. So we make sure we have a lot of mics, an average, in order to get a good kind of reading. We also make use of this. Looks a bit technical, but it's basically an XC90, which we ripped out everything and installed everything again. So we have 64 channels. In this car, we have this kind of rack here where we can do A/B testing between different setups. We can connect external equipment. This has served us very well, and in the end, this is our studio, where we do most of our work. I will actually fast forward a bit because I want to come here. I want to talk a bit about future. Because that's where it comes in, this kind of marriage, which I started with. This is a kind of dreamy picture of the future. Autonomous cars. Cars are driving by themselves. They might not look very like we're used to. We might use it differently. And actually, one very important thing. In order to make this happen, the car needs to have loads and loads of sensors and needs to be aware of everything basically in and outside of the car. And that is something we can use to build even better experiences. So we're going from traditional sound interface, very driver focused, very kind of reactive and discrete, to a more something here which is not about driving anymore. Could be anything, could be reading, could be sleeping. And this enables a lot of other kind of activities, as I said. The sensors are massive in order for this to happen. And we need to do something else when it comes to sound. Well, everything I talked about up till now has been about the driver and about portraying warnings and safety aspects. This is something else where we can play with sounds in different ways. So I will go through a little bit about how we started our work. So we did a research project a while ago where we want to see how do we transfer our work into this domain of self-driving cars. 2-year project together with actually a company within the game industry in Stockholm, helping us out because now we're closing into more like this, I used to call it blank canvas. In gaming, you have kind of a blank canvas and you create up on that. In cars, we have maybe not so much blank canvas, but we're going there with this kind of approach. So we did a lot of interviews. We ended up that people have basically different kind of behaviors on how they would use an autonomous car, reaching from I only want to work, I'm super scared, to I want to explore this fully. And we did, once again, a lot of this kind of lo-fi testing and ended up with what we call different sound layers. A lot of different sound layers, everything from welcoming you still need to put your seatbelt on, so that might be still needed. But the most maybe important ones are these two. So something that we call perception sounds and intention sounds. And I will show you a bit what we mean with that. So perception sound is what the car basically sees. Because a big thing of autonomous cars is trusting the car, right? So I'm going to go into this driverless car. I need to trust it. Can we help with sound? Can we see this guy with a mobile phone and play something like this in order to show that? And especially, does that have an effect on how you perceive the car, how much you trust the car? A more kind of example of that would be this. Basically perceiving your surroundings. Then we have intention sounds. And intention sounds relate to the car's own kind of motion or maneuvers. And here we did a concept with taking a lot of inspiration from kind of gaming and from this ghost car here. Being an autonomous drive means that you know what the car is going to do the next, let's say, 2-3 minutes. That means that we can play a sound ahead of time, ahead of the actual motion, in order to perceive or in order to show the car's maneuvers. So if the car is going to slow down, we can show that by sound. I think there is a sound here. Yeah. Let's say you hear that ahead of the actual maneuver. That would then show the car's intention and could be used something like this in this situation. We did a lot of evaluations on this, mainly in VR. This is a trust part. And we found that this is actually very helpful in trusting the autonomous car more, playing sounds in this kind of scenarios. So people feel like it's more intelligent and people feel like it's more safe. Then we went on another quest. Say you're riding with a car, you're reading a book. A lot of people, 1 out of 3, are highly susceptible to motion sickness. This is a problem. We have a big problem that we have. We asked ourselves the question, is that something we can help with, sound-wise? The sound you just heard is intention sound, showing the car's intentions while you're heavy occupied with whatever task you're doing. So we hired an airfield and we took this kind of lap. Green is acceleration, blue is deceleration, I think, and there are curves. And we played sounds representing acceleration, deceleration, and curves ahead of time, so ahead of the actual maneuver. People got to read some poem by Bob Dylan, I think, and we told them specifically that you have to answer questions afterwards. So they were heavily occupied with reading Bob Dylan while taking these laps. And yeah, I told about the sound design. So what happened then? Here we have two curves. We start off by baseline. So you have red being without audio, yellow being with audio. You start off in baseline. You take one lap, it's starting to diverge. Second lap, they diverge even more, and third lap, they are really diverged. At the second and the third lap, we have a significant difference between having sound or not to your perceived motion sickness. Quite interesting findings, but of course you have to know a lot of things beforehand. You have to really have this autonomous system where you know the car's upcoming maneuver in order to show it. For us, working in the industry, I think this was even more valid. People actually prefer these sounds because you could think that it's quite intrusive to have these sounds while driving, showing every motion. But they really liked it. A majority was even positive of having only sound and no visuals to it. So that was about autonomous drive. A few words about the next big thing, which is kind of shared mobility. That you're supposed to share your whatever way of transportation with others. So we're doing currently, which I have to come back to, a project on how to basically promote this mobility. And here we actually moved out of the car and moving more into the domain of navigation, let's say by foot, and audio navigation in order to find your car and free up your vision from the phone and instead use audio navigation. It has a parallel track as well, which is more connected to tourism, where we want to kind of explore, collaborating with the kind of luxurious hotel in the north of Sweden, where we can see if we can kind of build on their hotel experience from a car transit at the airport to the hotel, where we're looking for kind of someone who can portray this trip, portray the end destination via sound. So basically making a transfer from whatever airport to whatever luxury venue, more pleasurable and more relaxed and calm. Well, to sum it up, now we talked about motion sickness and we talked about all of that. We are very much in the beginning of this, where we're still going from this chimes to very functional use of sound. But not in a too far future, I see that we're building more soundscape, and we're building it together with the car. So we're using the car input, and we're building soundscapes up on that. And that's where I think we'll have, let's say in a few years' time, a lot more of these kind of connections, business to business. That's all for me.